I'm with Jonathan Feldstein, and we're talking about Run for Zion. Now, Jonathan, what is Run for Zion?
So it's fascinating because when we started the Genesis 123 Foundation as a nonprofit to build bridges between Jews and Christians, we were looking to do things that were new and unique and meaningful. And Run for Zion fits all of those. It's the first, and as far as I know, only Christian program that's built around the Jerusalem Marathon. I went to the mayor of Jerusalem at the time, and I said, if you're a Christian and if you're a runner, not New York, not Tokyo, not Boston or Athens or anywhere else in the world, but Jerusalem is going to be the most significant place in the world. And so we've created this fabulous program that now, thank God, after the pandemic, after tourism is back on in Israel, we're able to be planning a new group in March of 23.
How long have you been doing this for Run for Zion?
We started it in 2018. We had 7 participants in our first year. It was sort of the pilot trial year, which was a smashing success. And increased 1,000-fold to 80 people registered for 2020. Unfortunately, 10 days before people were supposed to arrive, Israel shut its airspace and tourists weren't allowed, and some people started canceling. So now we're back, and I think we're going to get close back to the 2 buses that we had for 2020, which is a great recovery.
When is the next run that's going to happen?
The next run is March of 2023. Anyone who's interested can go to runforzion.com and get information. One of the really great things about it is it's not just a unique opportunity. And by the way, I'm not a runner. So I refer to, when I speak of the Jerusalem Marathon, I speak of marathon as the M word. Anyone can come and run a full and half marathon. Anyone can come and walk 5 or 10 kilometers or run the 5 and 10K races. But any serious marathon that has 40, 50,000 participants like Jerusalem does needs people on the sidelines cheering and being inspired by those who are actually doing the race. So we tell anyone who wants to come that they can. Our price is deliberately low because we don't want that to be a barrier, but we do something unique and extra that nobody else does. We offer subsidies that can bring the price to come to participate as low as $29.
So if you're a serious runner, you're not going to come to Jerusalem unless you are a serious runner. So do you have a full tour and a full package for people as well?
Yeah, sure. It's not just the run. We have a full tour and package, but it's also meant to be interactive. We're connecting people to Israelis and Israeli organizations so they feel like they're a part of society. I've seen other packages just marketing the marathon as a tourist attraction and then checking the boxes with some basic tourism. This is an interactive program because we want to build bridges. We bring mostly Christians, some Jews participate. I'm always trying to get more Jews to participate because the idea is to build bridges. But we definitely are creating an interactive program, which is, I would say, probably 80% Christian oriented, but I hijack the Friday night, which is the marathon, the race itself is on a Friday. Friday night, when Shabbat begins, the day of rest, we do a traditional Shabbat dinner in the hotel celebrating what we've done, and for those who've just participated in the race, a needed evening of rest.
So if a Christian is listening and they're thinking, well, I love to run and I'd love to go to Israel, can they go to their church and start getting people within their church together to then come to you and say, how can we put a package together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we offer any individual anywhere in the world the opportunity to participate. This afternoon, I'm speaking with a pastor in Nepal who wants to bring a dozen or more pastors, and then next week someone in the Philippines, and there are some churches that are participating from throughout the United States. But any individual can come, but any church or any other ministry can join us as a ministry partner. And the beauty of that is they can take Run for Zion as their own program without the pressure of having to recruit a whole bus. We've already got the group pricing. We'll spin off sections of the tour or suggest that people add on a few days before and or after so that they can do their own orientation, their own program, and be led by the pastor of that church. So we're really encouraging that. There's no cost to be involved. The subsidies are open to anybody, whether it's part of whether someone's participating as an individual or as part of a church team, and 20, 30, 40, or 50% of them choose to participate in the subsidy program.
Do people get sponsorship to help some of the organizations that you are helping?
That's the idea. We've known each other for a while, and I think we've spoken about this. For me, it's important to build bridges and create real relationships between Jews and Christians. And too often, I see it among Jews and among Christians that Christians are objectified as a faith-based ATM, simply with people trying to get money out, and sometimes very disingenuously. So I resist making anyone have to feel like they need to raise money to participate in the program. There's a price. You can pay your own way, and you can come. It's very reasonable, and it's a great program that we offer. But because it's a marathon, which is a normal thing for people to ask for sponsors, their friends and family to sponsor them, because there's a service component, we have that opportunity that on runforzion.com, whether, again, as an individual or as part of a team, you can sign up, you get a crowdfunding page, invite people to sponsor you, and those subsidies that I'm speaking of kick in based on how much money you raise, because God has this great formula in Genesis 12:3. People speak about the scripture all the time, but God doesn't say, "Bless Israel, I'm the Lord your God." If he said that, we'd all be down with it, right? But he says, "Bless Israel, and I'm going to bless you. You're going to get something." And he can bless us in infinite number of ways. So our way of coming along with that is by offering the subsidies. So this year, the numbers, for instance, if someone raises $4,000, we provide a subsidy of $1,800 for the land package. Until September 15th, we're charging only $1,829 for the land package, and after that it goes up to $1,949. So that's where literally someone can come and participate for as little as $29. And we love that model because it's really biblical. We don't want to give anyone any pressure that they have to raise a certain amount of money, but if you're raising money, we divide it up among a variety of projects here that actually tangibly bless Israel. We show the participants where the money's going for full integrity, and so they can feel like they're part of it, and we're also offering a great subsidy.
Which organizations do you support?
Oh, goodness. It's easier to, I'll forget some of them. It's easier to talk about the categories. We sponsor social welfare programs for soldiers and widows and at-risk youth, Holocaust survivors, terror victims, protecting unborn babies, obviously building bridges between Jews and Christians. That's our raison d'etre, and we want to support that. And I know I'm forgetting some, but we have a whole list of them on the website called Who We Bless and Why, which lists the kind of project, civilian security for communities like mine that are on the periphery and have special, unique needs. So we've provided civilian security programs. And I'm missing a few, but that's the general idea. And the money goes to this basket, and at the end of Run for Zion, we just divide up the money among projects. But one other point about that, for me, it's important not just that the projects be meaningful to Christians, but that the organizations or people providing the service are doing so with full integrity. So I vet it out because I find that too many, even if good intentions, are not doing the job the way we want them to do. And I want to be sure that for every dollar we donate, that it's getting the greatest impact.
So running through Jerusalem can actually be a blessing to Israel.
We say blessing Israel with every step, and not to be off-putting. I'm always very sensitive to how I market things among my Christian friends, but a lot of people come and talking about walking where Jesus walked, so we talk about running where Jesus walked.
What's it like running in Jerusalem? It's a historic city.
It's an historic city, and one of the beauties of running in Jerusalem, first of all, for serious runners, it's a hard run. It's very hilly. You know this. It's a very hilly city. If you're a serious runner, no one's going to come to run in Jerusalem to get their best time in a marathon or a half marathon. But what's beautiful about it, of course, you run in and around the old city and other biblical sites, and those are important. And I think that's a distraction, because if you have the presence of mind to know where you're running and realize what's happening, if you run up to the Mount of Olives and you look to the right and you realize, wait a minute, that's more or less, minus the dome, the view that Jesus had coming into Jerusalem. It's powerful. How can you not stop and download that for a moment at least? But if you run on just the regular city streets and you see the streetlights flashing, or you see other buildings that are modern buildings, to me, not just to me, that's the realization of the prophecy that God promised that he's going to bring us back. We've restored. We're back here. So everything that you see, even if it's a brand new apartment building that's 27 stories high, you know that, or the light rail that you're running along. All of this stuff is part of the return of the Jewish people to restore sovereignty here in Jerusalem. And that's really significant. And we overlay that with the whole running idea. We don't want people, so the night before the race, we do what's traditional, whether you're running or walking 5 or 10K or the full marathon. We do a pasta dinner. People know this if you're running a serious race. The night before, you eat a lot of high-carb food, typically pasta. So we do that. That's a normal part of anything. And even if someone's only walking 5 or 10 kilometers, it doesn't matter. We want to provide that experience. But the thing that we do that's so cool, because running in and around Jerusalem is so significant biblically and in the modern day, recognizing that we've returned, that we've restored Jewish sovereignty and rebuilt the city, is we're providing a great deal of spiritual energy. We're going to have different people preaching so that the next morning when they wake up, it's not just a run to see how far you go over what period of time, but you're able to appreciate the significance of where you're running. Some people will come and run through the city and have a knowledge that every kilometer they're going to be praying for something different. That's great. I just want people to be able to come and experience Jerusalem and see even the modern things as being biblically significant.
Do you have to be very sporty to do this?
No, for sure not. I'm not. I have a bad knee and a bad back, and that's why, even though I run the organization, I don't run the race. I can't even walk 10 kilometers because the impact will hurt me. No, people, I always call it the M word. It's just, marathon can be very off-putting. It is called the Jerusalem Marathon. We actually had a woman come from Alabama. She won a free trip with us in 2019. And she wasn't a runner or a walker, but she wanted to be part of the experience. And get this, she registered for, I think it was the 10K, and she decided she was going to walk. She brought a nice new pair of running shoes, and she was going to walk the 10 and just do it by herself. So at the beginning of the trip, some young Israeli man with cerebral palsy came up and just took her hand. And they walked and talked the whole thing. So how amazing. But I will set up chairs on the sidelines because we want to be able to be there to cheer, obviously, to cheer on the Run for Zion participants. But if there are 40,000 people running, we want to cheer them all on. And I saw when we did it in 2019, and we actually had a broadcast at the end of the race in 2021, there's so much to be inspired by. So I encourage people that even if you're not a runner, even if you're not athletic, come and join us. It's very meaningful. It's a unique experience that no one else can have by coming to Israel during that period.
Which countries do people come from?
Upcoming, we're anticipating Nepal, we're anticipating Philippines, we're having conversations with people in Germany. There are several African pastors who are dying to come to Israel, and maybe they'll bring a team or maybe they're just going to come on their own. North America, it's important for me this coming year that we have bilingual participants who are Spanish, Korean, and or Portuguese speakers, so that by 2024, we can have a full parallel program in Spanish, Korean, or Portuguese as well. One or the other, or maybe all three. And so we're just beginning recruitment now. It's hard to say where everyone will be coming from, but it's really been a blessing to see where there's interest from all over the world.
Tell us about the virtual running program as well.
So the virtual running was initially built up during the pandemic when people couldn't come here. And so what we do, and this is actually important, if you're a participant, I call a participant not a runner because you don't have to run, but if you come here, you participate, and you're participating also in the subsidy crowdfunding part, we want to even engage everyone who donates even a nominal amount, $5 or $10, or in any other currency, and we want to engage them in a Jerusalem experience. So throughout the period of the leading up to the program, and as well as during the program, we're doing live and pre-recorded events, so every single donor and every single participant will feel like they're connected here in the land. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to wait up in the middle of the night. The race starts at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. That's really bad hours in much of the world. People shouldn't have to stay up. But there will be public programs that we post live on social media so people can feel like they're part of it. And people can also choose to run or walk any distance they want in their communities if for some reason they can't come to Israel in March of 2023 and be part of it. And also based on how much money they raise, we also give them the shirts and the hats and the medals and the decals to go on the car that are really special and all kinds of other swag so people can participate virtually either by running or walking where they are, or just by watching and participating in the live and pre-recorded events.
Now, you're an Orthodox Jew. Why are you involved in Jewish-Christian relations?
Well, the short answer to that is because back in the late 80s, God called me to be a bridge between Jews and Christians when I was in a church for the very first time in my life in Cleveland, Tennessee. But I have to tell you, it's as my life and my career have grown, to me, it's just a blessing. It's something that I love, that I'm passionate about. I find myself being a better human being and better Jew as a representative to Christians, both of what Orthodox Judaism is and an Israeli citizen. And I just think that it's so important. Yes, we and Jews have very significant things about which we disagree theologically, but far more things about which we agree, and the foundation of our faith is so common. And I believe that that's part of my calling, just to be that bridge and open the doors that we can come together on all those things that we have in common.
And it's the Bible that brings us together, isn't it?
It's the Bible, but the Bible, first of all, I always say it's the God of Israel, the land of Israel, or the people of Israel, the land of Israel, and now the modern state of Israel. Those are our major pillars, but there are many of them. And if we read the Bible, yesterday I was speaking to a friend who was talking about the first time she realized that the biblical festivals, normally I would call them the Jewish holidays, but the biblical festivals, God calls them his festivals. Well, that makes it not exclusive to the Jewish people. That means he's giving us these things. The Sabbath, it's a day of rest. We as Orthodox Jews observe that uniquely. But the day of rest, my goodness, that's a gift to everybody. And so the fact that I'm able to personify that, to explain that in a user-friendly way, certainly not judgmental. I don't care how people live or don't. But I think, and it's fair to say, for so many centuries, Christianity was hijacked, was pulled away from its Jewish roots. And I think you get a much deeper understanding of Christianity, of who Jesus was as a first century Jew, and how that adds dimension to one's faith as a Christian. So me having the privilege of serving in this capacity, building bridges, Run for Zion is one of the examples, but it's essential. We have so much more in common than we do, and you're right, it goes back to the Bible.
Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because God called me to do it, but I also have the privilege of loving what I do. I realize the significance of me at this season, in this place, having opened doors for me that I sometimes still pinch myself. Why and how? Why me? Why Jonathan Feldstein as an Orthodox Jew? Why did I have the privilege of being at Billy Graham's 95th birthday party? Why did I have the privilege of being the first Orthodox Jew to speak at the Billy Graham Library? And I say those not to make myself sound important. Doesn't make me important. It's just that God has given me so much favor that I feel that if he's opening these doors for me, how much more than I need to run through them and open more doors and use this as opportunities to widen the bridges and build them longer and build them wider and create as much relationships, of course, with Christians. But by the way, and you know this, it's important for Jews to understand this significance as well, because many Jews resist having relations with Christians, and for lots of reasons for another conversation. But when my friends look at my social media and see what I'm up to, I joke and they look at me with 3 raised eyebrows, like, what are you doing and why? I mean, I actually go into churches, which is frowned upon among many Jews, maybe even most Jews. And I speak in churches, and I speak at evangelical conferences, and there's nobody that I won't talk to, because that's how you build bridges.
What's your prayer, finally, for Run for Zion?
Well, my prayer for Run for Zion as a program is that we will eventually, and I don't say this immodestly, but we will eventually create the largest annual tourist attraction in Israel. We were on track for that, not strangely, but wonderfully, until 2020 when we had to cancel. So I pray that we'll come back on a numbers basis, but the reason for that is not to say, oh, we got the numbers. The reason is to engage as many Christians as possible in meaningful relationships here in Israel. I don't diminish anyone coming to Israel on any general tour where you get on a bus in the morning and you get off the bus and you do that repeatedly during the day and take pictures and connect with the land and the biblical history. But I think that we're offering so much more by way of connecting with the people and programs. And for that reason, I want it to be as big as we can, so we can build those bridges. And of course, for those who choose to raise money, the more financial blessing that we can provide to the people doing these meaningful programs that we support, it's that reciprocal blessing. It's a cyclical thing. It's not a linear thing. It's cyclical. And I want to see, someone asked me recently, when will I retire? I can't retire because it's not a job. It's a passion. And there's not an end. The end is when Messiah comes. But until that point, this is a work in progress. And there always is and will be room for growth and improvement.
So anyone who's listened to the interview and they're putting on their running shoes, what's your website for people who'd like to know more and get involved and be part of this?
Sure. So the website is runforzion.com, and anyone can contact us and connect with us and ask questions through the website, and certainly to register their own individual page or run with it, no pun intended, but I just said it, run with this idea and take it to their church and say, hey, let's bring 5 or 10 people. Let's bring people from the youth ministry. Let's bring people from this. Let's bring it to the Christian college near us and let the students come and participate and connect with us. So whether it's on an individual basis or on a ministry basis, we embrace it all. And I'm looking forward to hosting as many people as possible this coming March, and that just putting us back on track for where we were in 2020 and building toward the future.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. What a blessing to be with you.